The trading post on Kepler 442c smelled like rust, sweat, and desperation. Captain Marcus Chen pushed through the crowded cantina, his boots sticking slightly to the grimy floor. Alien voices mixed together in dozens of languages, creating a noise that hurt his ears. He had been running cargo between colonies for 8 years, but places like this still made him uncomfortable. Marcus found an empty table in the corner and ordered a drink. He needed to find someone willing to buy his cargo of industrial textiles. The profit margins were thin, but steady work was hard to find these days. The Dominion Wars had destroyed trade routes and left many worlds struggling. He was checking his tablet when he noticed her. The alien woman stood near the bar, speaking quietly to a large trader with 4 arms. Her skin was pale blue with darker markings that seemed to glow weakly in the dim light. She was thin, too thin, and her clothes looked worn. Behind her, a small child clung to her leg. The child looked like a smaller version of her mother, but her glowing markings were barely visible. Marcus watched as the 4-armed trader laughed and shook his head. The woman's shoulders dropped. She moved to another table where 2 reptilian beings sat counting credits. Marcus could not hear what she said, but he saw one of them lean back and make a gesture that was clearly rude. The woman stepped away quickly, pulling her child closer. She approached 3 more tables. Each time the answer was the same. Some traders ignored her completely. Others made crude jokes. A few made offers that caused her to back away in fear. Finally, she approached Marcus's table. Up close, he could see that her hands were shaking. Her bioluminescent markings flickered weakly, like a dying light. She spoke in a language he did not understand. When he shook his head, she tried again in broken standard. "Please," she said, her accent thick, very cold. "My daughter." She's sick from cold. The child behind her was shivering. Marcus could see that her lips had a blue tint that did not look natural. Her small body trembled constantly. I give..." The woman struggled with the words. She pointed to herself, then made a gesture toward the upper levels of the trading post where travelers rented rooms. "One night, me, for warm cover for my child." Marcus felt his stomach turn. She was offering herself for a blanket. A simple thermal blanket that cost maybe 20 credits in any supply store. The woman saw his expression and her face fell. She started to turn away, thinking he was rejecting her like all the others. But Marcus stood up quickly. "Wait," he said. "Where are you staying?" She looked confused. Her translator device hung broken around her neck, the screen cracked and dark. "Stay. Where sleep?" Marcus tried to use simple words. She pointed toward the trading post's exit, toward the refugee camps outside the settlement. Marcus had seen them when he landed. Hundreds of beings living in makeshift shelters waiting for transport off-world or for someone to give them work. "Show me," Marcus said. The woman's eyes widened. She looked afraid, uncertain. This was not what she had expected. In her experience, humans were traders who cared only about profit. She had heard stories about what humans did to desperate aliens. "No hurt," Marcus said, realizing her fear. "I help, no payment. Just help." The woman stared at him for a long moment. Her child tugged at her worn dress and whispered something in their language. The mother knelt down and spoke softly to the girl, then stood and nodded to Marcus. "My name Velthera," she said slowly. "Daughter is Kira." "Marcus," he replied, touching his chest. They walked out of the trading post into the cold evening air. Marcus could see why the cold was killing them. His breath made small clouds, but he was comfortable in his jacket. For beings who clearly needed warmth to survive, this weather was deadly. The refugee camp was worse than Marcus had imagined. Hundreds of shelters made from scrap metal, old fabric, and salvaged ship parts stretched across the muddy ground. Smoke rose from small fires, but there was not enough fuel to keep them burning bright. Aliens from dozens of species sat around the fires, their faces hollow with hunger and exhaustion. Velthera led him through the maze of shelters to a small lean-to built against a broken cargo container. She pulled aside a piece of torn fabric that served as a door. Inside, Marcus saw something that made him catch his breath. 12 other aliens huddled together in the tiny space. They looked like Velthera and Kira, the same blue skin and glowing markings. But their light was dim, flickering weakly. 3 were clearly elderly, their skin wrinkled and their movements slow. 4 more were children, all shivering despite being pressed together for warmth. They looked up when Velthera entered with Marcus. Fear filled their eyes when they saw the human. One of the elderly males said something sharp in their language. Velthera spoke back quickly, her voice tired but patient. Family, she said to Marcus, using the one standard word she was sure of. She pointed to each person, naming them in her language. All. Homegone, Marcus understood. These were refugees from the Dominion expansion. He had heard reports about worlds being destroyed, populations scattered across space, but seeing it up close was different. These were not numbers in a news report. They were people who had lost everything. Kira, the little girl, collapsed suddenly. Her legs gave out and she fell to her knees, her breathing shallow. Velthera cried out and knelt beside her daughter. The child's skin was turning darker blue and her faint glow was almost gone. Marcus did not think. He pulled off his jacket and wrapped it around the little girl. Then he picked her up and held her close, sharing his body heat. Kira was so light, too light for a child her age. The other aliens watched in shock. Humans did not do this. Humans took advantage of desperate aliens. They did not give away their warmth to strangers. I come back, Marcus told Velthera. He handed Kira to her mother, but left his jacket wrapped around the child. I bring help. He ran back to his ship, his mind racing. In his cargo hold, he had emergency supplies. Thermal blankets, heating units, food rations. He grabbed everything he could carry and ran back to the refugee camp. When he returned, the aliens stared at the supplies in disbelief. Marcus activated the heating units and handed out the thermal blankets. He opened food rations and gave them to the children first, then the elderly. Velthera started crying. Not from sadness, but from relief and confusion. She spoke rapidly in her language, then tried to find words in standard. Why? She finally asked.
Why help? You
human. Marcus looked at little Kira, now wrapped in a warm blanket, her color already improving. He thought about what Velthera had been willing to do to save her child's life. The desperation that drove a mother to offer herself to strangers for a simple blanket. Because you need help, he said simply. And I can help. The elderly male who had spoken harshly before now approached Marcus slowly. He touched his own chest and said a word in their language. Then he tried in broken standard. Thank you. Marcus spent the rest of the night in the refugee shelter, making sure the heating units worked properly and that everyone had enough food. As he watched the aliens slowly warm up and eat their first real meal in days, he began to form a plan that would change everything. Marcus woke up on the hard ground of the refugee shelter. His back ached and his neck was stiff, but the sight that greeted him made the discomfort worth it. Little Kira was sitting up, her bioluminescent markings glowing softly in the early morning light. The dangerous blue tint had left her skin, and she was eating a food ration with small, careful bites. The other aliens were moving around the shelter, no longer huddled together for survival. The heating units had kept them warm through the night, and the thermal blankets had done their job. For the first time since Marcus had met them, they looked like living beings instead of creatures waiting to die. Velthera approached him with a cup of something hot. The drink smelled like herbs and had a golden color. She offered it to him with both hands, a gesture that seemed important in her culture. Morning drink from home, she said in her careful standard. I save for special day. Today is special day. Marcus accepted the cup and tasted it. The liquid was warm and sweet with a slight bitter edge that reminded him of tea. It was the first thing these refugees had been able to offer him, and he understood how much it meant. Thank you, he said. It tastes very good. Velthera smiled, the first real smile he had seen from her. Her bioluminescent markings flickered brighter for a moment, and Marcus realized this was how her people expressed happiness. As the other aliens began their day, Velthera started telling Marcus their story. Her standard was limited, but she used gestures and simple words to paint a picture that broke his heart. Was plant teacher on Homeworld, she said, touching her chest. Study plants help grow food. She pointed to the elderly male who had thanked Marcus the night before. Torgon, he fixed machines. Very smart with ship engines. She went around the shelter introducing each person and explaining what they used to do. There was a teacher, a doctor, an artist who created beautiful light sculptures, and a young man who had been studying to become a pilot. These were not the criminals or freeloaders that other traders talked about when they complained about refugees. These were educated, skilled people who had lost their entire world. Dominion ships come 3 seasons ago, Velthera continued, her light dimming with sadness. Big ships. They say we take too much space, use too much resources. They give us one day to leave. Marcus had heard about the Dominion's expansion policies, but the news reports made it sound like voluntary relocation. The reality was clearly different. We take what we can carry in small ships, Velthara said. Leave everything else. Home, family graves, the great trees where we first learned to glow together. All gone. She explained how they had jumped from world to world, trying to find somewhere that would accept them. Each planet had its own problems. Some were too expensive, requiring payment they did not have. Others were already overcrowded with refugees. A few simply did not want their species at all. We sell things to buy food, fuel for ship, Velthara said. First sell art, jewelry, small machines. Then sell tools, clothes, blankets, then... She gestured around the bare shelter. Nothing left to sell except... She could not finish the sentence, but Marcus understood. She had been ready to sell herself because there was nothing else left. Little Kira came over and climbed into her mother's lap. She spoke in their musical language, and Velthara's markings brightened slightly. She say thank you for warm night. Velthara translated. She say human man has kind glow even if we cannot see it. Marcus felt something tighten in his chest. He thought about his own life. Running cargo between worlds, always worried about the next job, the next payment. His problems seemed small compared to what these people had been through. How many of your people are out there? He asked, gesturing toward the larger refugee camp. Many, Velthara said sadly. Hundreds from our world. Thousands from other worlds Dominion take. All looking for new home, but no one want us. We too different, need too much warmth, eat different food. Marcus stood up and walked to the entrance of the shelter. Outside, he could see the full size of the refugee camp in daylight. It stretched for kilometers, filled with beings from dozens of different worlds. All of them displaced, all of them struggling to survive. He thought about his cargo ship sitting in the trading post's landing bay. It was designed to carry bulk goods, but the cargo hold was large enough to transport people if necessary. His current cargo was just textiles, profitable but not urgent. Any delay would cost him money, but these people were dying slowly every day they stayed on this cold world. When he returned to the shelter, Velthara was teaching Kira words in Standard. The little girl was a quick learner, repeating each word carefully and giggling when she got the pronunciation right. Kira very smart, Velthara said proudly. Learned 3 languages before home gone. Now she learned human words. Human words are strange, Marcus said, kneeling down to Kira's level. But you are doing very well. Kira spoke to her mother in their language, and Velthara translated. She asked why humans help us when other humans take our money and give nothing back. Marcus looked around the shelter at the 13 refugees who had been left with nothing. They had been wandering space for months, selling everything they owned piece by piece just to survive. Other humans they had met along the way had taken advantage of their desperation, charging them high prices for basic supplies or refusing to help at all. Not all humans are the same, he said finally. Some care more about money than people, but some of us think helping others is more important than credits. Velthara studied his face carefully. You are a different kind of human, she said. We hear stories about your people. Strong fighters, smart traders, but cold hearts. You have warm heart. The elderly engineer, Torgan, approached them and spoke to Velthara in their language. She nodded and turned back to Marcus. He asked, Do you know place we can go? Place that want plant teacher and machine fixer and doctor? We work hard, learn new ways. Just need chance to live. Marcus thought about Haven Colony. It was 3 weeks away by jump drive, but they accepted refugees and had good programs to help them settle in. The planet was warmer too, better for a cold-blooded species. The problem was getting there. Commercial passenger ships were expensive, and these refugees had already spent everything they had. I know a place, Marcus said slowly, but the trip costs money you do not have. Velthara's light dimmed, and she nodded sadly. We understand. Thank you for warm night. We not forget kindness. But Marcus was not finished thinking. He looked at his tablet, checking his cargo manifest and ship specifications. The textiles he was carrying could be sold on any world with clothing factories. They were profitable but replaceable. These people, however, were irreplaceable. If they died on this cold world, their skills, their knowledge, their culture would die with them. What if I told you that I could take you to this safe place? Marcus asked. Velthara stared at him. We have no money to pay. I did not ask for money, Marcus said. I asked what you would say if I could take you there. The shelter became very quiet. Even little Kira seemed to understand that something important was happening. The other refugees gathered closer, their bioluminescent markings flickering with hope and disbelief. "You would do this?" Velthara whispered. "Give up your cargo money to help strangers?" Marcus thought about it for exactly 3 seconds. Then he nodded. "Yes," he said. "I would do this." The silence in the shelter stretched for several heartbeats. Then Torgon, the elderly engineer, spoke rapidly in their musical language. The other refugees joined in, their voices rising and falling in what sounded like an argument. Marcus watched their bioluminescent markings flicker in different patterns, some bright with excitement, others dim with worry. "What are they saying?" Marcus asked Velthara. She listened for a moment before answering. "They discuss if this is real or dream. Torgon say maybe you are spirit sent to test us. Young Nixara say maybe you want something we do not understand yet. Elder Quintal asked why human would give up profit for aliens. What do you think?" Marcus asked. Velthara looked at him carefully, studying his face. "I think you are real human with real kindness. But I also think this choice will hurt you. Other humans will not understand. They will call you fool. Say you waste money on aliens who cannot pay back." She was right, and Marcus knew it. In the trading post cantina, other captains would laugh at him. Some might even refuse to do business with him if word got out that he was giving free rides to refugees. The trading community was small and reputation mattered. "Let me worry about other humans," Marcus said. "The question is, do you trust me enough to come with me?" Kira suddenly broke away from the group and ran to Marcus. She wrapped her small arms around his leg and spoke rapidly in her language. Her bioluminescent markings were brighter than Marcus had seen them yet, pulsing in quick, happy patterns. "She say yes," Velthara translated with a smile. "She say you smell like safety and warm food and the feeling when the sun comes up after a cold night." Marcus was surprised to feel his eyes getting wet. "She says all that?" "Our language has many words for different kinds of trust and hope," Velthara explained. Kira used the words for absolute trust, the kind child has for parent who keeps them safe. The other refugees had finished their discussion. Torgon approached Marcus and placed his hands on the human's shoulders. The elderly alien's markings glowed in a slow, steady pattern. "He say we accept your gift," Velthara translated. "He also say if you ever need help, any kind of help, you call for Torgon and he will come. This is promise that cannot be broken in our culture." One by one, the other refugees came forward to make the same promise. Marcus found himself surrounded by 13 aliens, all glowing softly, all speaking words he could not understand but whose meaning was clear. "We should go now," Marcus said, "before I change my mind." But as they gathered their few possessions, Marcus realized he had not thought through the practical problems. His cargo hold was full of textiles, and 13 people needed space to live for 3 weeks. They would need food, water, and most importantly, heat. "Wait here," he told them. "I need to prepare the ship." Marcus hurried back to the trading post, his mind working on the logistics. In the cantina, he found 3 of his regular trading contacts: Captain Zhou, who ran pharmaceuticals, Captain Indar, who specialized in rare metals, and Captain Yuki, who transported luxury goods. "Marcus," Zhou called out. "Heard you spent the night in the refugee camp. Some bet you got robbed, others bet you got killed. I said you probably just felt sorry for them." "Something like that," Marcus said. He sat down at their table and ordered a drink. "Joe, what would you pay for 40 tons of Kepler textiles delivered to Centauri Station?" "Same shipment you were talking about yesterday. Maybe 60% of market value, since it is emergency sale." "Why? Need to move them fast," Marcus said. "Indar, you interested in buying my cargo space for the next month?" "I need to make an unscheduled passenger run." Nindar's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of confusion in his species. "Passenger run? You do not have passenger facilities. Also, passenger work is not profitable unless you charge high prices." "These passengers cannot pay high prices," Marcus admitted. "Cannot pay high prices or cannot pay at all?" Yuki asked with a smirk. "Cannot pay at all." The table went quiet. Joe whistled low. "Marcus, you feeling okay? Heat stroke, maybe? Because it sounds like you are talking about giving free transport to refugees." "That is exactly what I am talking about." "Why?" Endar asked bluntly. "What profit do you gain?" Marcus thought about little Kira clinging to his leg, about Velthara's desperate offer the night before, about 13 people facing slow death on a cold world. How could he explain that some things were more important than profit? Sometimes the right choice is not the profitable choice, he said finally. Joe shook his head. Marcus, I like you, but this is stupid. Refugees are not your responsibility. You want to help them? Give them some credits and move on. Do not destroy your business for strangers. They are not strangers anymore, Marcus said. They are people who need help and I can help them. Yuki leaned forward. Word of advice, friend. Other captains hear about this, they will think you are soft. Bad for business when people think you make emotional decisions instead of smart ones. Then they will think wrong, Marcus said. This is a smart decision. It is the right decision. He stood up and shook hands with Joe. 60% it is. I'll have the textiles ready for transfer in 2 hours. Back at his ship, Marcus worked faster than he had ever worked before. He sold his cargo to Joe at a significant loss, but the credits would cover fuel and supplies for the journey to Haven Colony. He converted half of his cargo hold into a living space, installing temporary sleeping areas and improving the environmental controls to provide more heat. The ship's medical bay was small but well equipped. He moved emergency food supplies to the passenger area and programmed the ship's recycling systems to handle the extra people. It was not luxury travel, but it would be warm, safe, and better than anything the refugees had experienced in months. When he returned to the camp to collect his passengers, word had already spread. Other refugees gathered to watch as the 13 Zephyrians prepared to leave. Some looked hopeful, wondering if this meant other ships might offer help. Others looked resigned, knowing this was likely a one-time miracle. Captain Joe was there too, along with several other traders from the cantina. They watched in obvious disbelief as Marcus helped load the refugees onto his ship. You sure about this, Marcus? Joe asked one last time. Not too late to change your mind. Very sure, Marcus replied. As his ship lifted off from the trading post, Marcus could see the refugee camp growing smaller below them. Thousands of beings still lived in those makeshift shelters, still struggling to survive. He could not help them all, but he could help 13. In the passenger area, Belthara was helping the others adjust to the ship's gravity and recycled air. When she saw Marcus, she approached him with tears in her large eyes. Why you do this? She asked again. Real reason. Not just because you can help. What make you different from other humans? Marcus thought about it as he watched little Kira exploring the ship with wonder and delight. The child was laughing for the first time since he had met her, her bioluminescent markings bright and happy. Maybe because someone helped me once, he said finally. When I was young and stupid and lost everything in a bad business deal, another captain gave me a job when no one else would. He said everyone deserves a second chance at life. And now you give us second chance, Belthara said. Now I give you a second chance, Marcus agreed. What if we cannot repay this kindness? Marcus smiled. Then you give someone else a second chance when you can. That is how kindness works. It does not end with one person. As they jumped to hyperspace, beginning their 3-week journey to Haven Colony, Marcus felt something he had not felt in years. Absolute certainty that he was doing the right thing. The profit margins could wait. The reputation concerns could wait. Right now, 13 people were alive and safe because he had made a choice to help rather than walk away. That was enough. 3 days into the journey, Marcus discovered that saving 13 refugees was creating problems he had not expected. The ship's food recycler was working overtime, the water systems needed constant monitoring, and the increased heat demand was putting extra strain on the engines. Worse, the confined space was making everyone restless, but the problems were balanced by unexpected discoveries. On the morning of the 4th day, Marcus found Belthara in his hydroponics bay, studying his vegetable plants with intense concentration. These grow wrong, she said when she noticed him watching. Wrong how? Marcus asked. The plants looked healthy to him. Belthara pointed to the nutrient tubes and lighting systems. You give too much blue light, not enough red. Plants want red light for fruit, blue light for leaves. Also, nutrient mixture has too much nitrogen. Plants grow big leaves but small vegetables. Marcus had been using the standard commercial growing guide for 2 years. His vegetable yields had always been disappointing, but he had assumed that was normal for a shipboard garden. Can you fix it? I can try. We'll take time to change slowly, not shock plants. Belthara's bioluminescent markings flickered, and what Marcus was learning meant excitement. On Homeworld, I grow food for whole city district. Very good at making plants happy. Over the next week, Vilthera transformed his hydroponics bay. She adjusted nutrient levels, repositioned lights, and even rearranged the plants to maximize growing space. The other refugees helped when they could. Little Kira turned out to have inherited her mother's talent with plants, carefully monitoring water levels and talking to the vegetables in her musical language. Plants like to be talked to, Kira explained to Marcus in her improving standard. They lonely like people. When you talk, they know someone care about them. Marcus watched the 6-year-old girl gently stroking the leaves of a tomato plant while humming a soft tune. Her bioluminescent markings pulsed in rhythm with her humming, creating a light show that seemed to make the plants perk up visibly. Do the plants understand what you are saying? Marcus asked. Not words, Kira said seriously, but they understand feeling. When you feel happy, plants feel happy too. When you scared, plants get scared. Mother teach me to share good feelings with growing things. The old engineer Torgon was making his own contributions to the ship. Marcus found him one morning in the engine room, studying the power distribution systems with the focused attention of an expert. Your engines work at 60% efficiency, Torgon announced when Marcus asked what he was doing. Very wasteful. With small changes, can improve to 80%, maybe 85%. What kind of changes? Torgon led him through the engine room, pointing out modifications that could be made with parts Marcus already had on board. Power coupling here is wrong size. Causes energy loss. Also, cooling system runs too often because heat distribution is uneven. Fix heat flow. Cooling system works less, more power for engines. Marcus had been having engine troubles for months, but the mechanics at trading posts always wanted expensive parts and lengthy repairs. Torgon's solutions were elegant and simple, using basic engineering principles that Marcus should have thought of himself. Why help my ship? Marcus asked. We will reach Haven Colony in 2 weeks. Then you start new life, never see my ship again. Torgon's markings flickered in the pattern Marcus had learned meant amusement. Human help us when we have nothing to give. Now we have knowledge and skills to give. This is how friendship works, yes? Yes, Marcus said. This is how friendship works. The changes Torgon made were remarkable. The engines ran smoother and quieter. Fuel consumption dropped by 20%. And the ship's heating system worked so efficiently that Marcus had to turn down the temperature controls. For the first time in years, every system on his ship was running perfectly. Dr. Quinara, the elderly female who had been a physician on their homeworld, appointed herself the ship's medical officer. She examined everyone on board, aliens and human alike, with thorough professional care. You have early signs of vitamin deficiency, she told Marcus after his examination. Common problem for humans who eat only preserved food. Also, your sleep patterns are disrupted. You worry too much, yes? I worry about 13 passengers who depend on me, Marcus admitted. We take care of ourselves and we take care of you too, Quinara said firmly. Family helps family. You are family now. She prepared vitamin supplements using plants from the hydroponics bay and insisted that Marcus follow a proper sleep schedule. When he protested that he needed to monitor the ship's systems constantly, she assigned the younger refugees to help with routine maintenance tasks. Nixara, who had been studying to become a pilot before the Dominion destroyed her world, proved to be excellent at navigation calculations. She could plot jump coordinates faster than Marcus's computer, and her solutions used less fuel while reducing travel time. The artist, Zayuna, decorated the ship's common areas with beautiful light sculptures created by manipulating her own bioluminescence and reflecting it through pieces of transparent plastic. The dull, functional spaces became warm and welcoming, filled with gentle colored light that seemed to make everyone feel calmer. Even the youngest refugees found ways to contribute. The teenage twins, Ral and Kor, turned out to be gifted at language learning. Within a week, they were translating for the older refugees and teaching standard to the children. They also helped Marcus understand Zephyrian culture, explaining the meaning behind different light patterns and social customs. When our people meet someone who shows great kindness, Ral explained, we make them part of our family group. Not just friend, actual family. You understand? I think so, Marcus said. No, you not understand yet, Kor said with a gentle smile. In our culture, family help family always, forever. If you have trouble in 10 years, in 20 years you call for help and we come. This is promise written in light and memory. Marcus was beginning to understand that his simple act of kindness had created bonds that went far deeper than a business transaction. These refugees were not just passengers grateful for transport. They were adopting him into their extended family network, complete with all the responsibilities and benefits that came with such a relationship. The transformation of his ship was obvious, but the changes in himself were more subtle. For the first time in years, Marcus looked forward to each day. The ship felt alive with conversation, laughter, and the constant gentle glow of Zephyrian bioluminescence. Meals became social events where stories were shared and languages were taught. Even routine maintenance became enjoyable when performed alongside new friends. 10 days into the journey, they encountered a Dominion patrol cruiser. Marcus's blood went cold when the massive ship appeared on his sensors. Dominion patrols had authority to search any vessel in their territory, and they were known for their harsh treatment of refugees. If they found his passengers, the consequences would be severe for everyone involved. All Zephyrians to the cargo hold, Marcus ordered over the ship's intercom. Hide among the supply containers. Do not make any sound or light. The patrol cruiser hailed his ship. Unknown cargo vessel. This is Dominion Patrol 77 Alpha. Prepare for routine inspection. Marcus activated his communication system with hands that shook slightly. Dominion Patrol, this is independent cargo hauler Good Samaritan. Currently carrying textiles and ship supplies to Haven Colony. What can I do for you? Stand by for boarding party, Good Samaritan. Any passengers or crew aboard other than yourself? Marcus thought quickly. If they scanned his ship thoroughly, they would detect the life signs of 13 people. But if he lied and they found evidence of passengers, they would assume he was smuggling criminals. I have temporary workers aboard, Marcus said. Hired them at the last port to help with cargo handling and ship maintenance. All properly documented. There was a pause. Then, understood, Good Samaritan. Boarding party en route. In the cargo hold, Velthara and the others had distributed themselves among the supply containers, using their natural camouflage abilities to blend with the shadows. Their bioluminescent markings were completely dim, and they controlled their breathing to remain as still as possible. When the Dominion boarding party arrived, Marcus met them with confidence he did not feel. The inspection team consisted of 3 heavily armed soldiers and 1 officer with the cold, efficient manner of someone who had conducted thousands of such searches. Unusual. To hire alien workers for a simple cargo run, the officer commented as they toured the ship. These ones work cheap and they know their way around ship systems, Marcus replied. The engineer fixed my power couplings, saved me a fortune in repair costs. In the cargo hold, the officer's scanner detected multiple life signs but attributed them to the workers Marcus had mentioned. When he ordered the aliens to show themselves, they emerged from hiding with the practiced movements of experienced cargo handlers. Torgan stepped forward and spoke in broken standard. Sir, we work for Captain Marcus. Good job, fair pay. We fix ship, move cargo, clean systems. The inspection lasted 30 tense minutes. The Dominion soldiers examined ship records, scanned cargo containers, and questioned Marcus about his route and destination. Through it all, the refugees played their parts perfectly, acting like hired workers who were grateful for honest employment. Finally, the boarding party Haven Colony appeared on the view screen like a blue and green jewel against the darkness of space. After 3 weeks of hyperspace travel, the sight of a real world with real sky and clouds made everyone crowd around the windows in excitement. For the refugees, it represented hope for a new beginning. For Marcus, it meant the end of the most meaningful journey of his life. The landing approach gave them a good view of the colony's main settlement. Haven City was larger than Marcus remembered, with new residential districts stretching toward the horizon. Ships from dozens of worlds filled the orbital traffic patterns. Cargo haulers, passenger liners, and small personal craft carrying settlers and visitors. So many different ships, little Kira observed, pressing her face against the view screen. So many different people coming to same place. Haven Colony welcomes everyone, Marcus explained. Humans, aliens, refugees, traders. If you can follow the laws and contribute to society, you can make a home here. But as they approached the Immigration Processing Center, Marcus began to worry. 3 weeks ago, he had told the refugees that Haven Colony accepted refugees easily. Now he wondered if that was still true. The galaxy had changed rapidly since his last visit. Here, the immigration official who met them at the landing pad was a tired-looking human woman, with the harried expression of someone dealing with too many problems and not enough Resources. Captain Chen, she said, checking her tablet. Your manifest shows cargo and 13 passengers. We did not receive any advance notice of refugee arrivals. Emergency transport, Marcus explained. These people were in immediate danger on Kepler 442c. Couldn't wait for proper documentation. The official sighed. Captain, I appreciate your humanitarian instincts, but we have procedures. Refugee processing takes time. We have interview requirements, medical examinations, security checks, background investigations. The current wait time is approximately 6 months. 6 months? Velthara whispered. Her bioluminescent markings flickered with worry. Where are they supposed to stay during processing? Marcus asked. Temporary housing facility outside the city. It is adequate. Basic shelter, food rations, medical care. Not comfortable, but safe. Marcus felt his heart sink. The temporary housing facility was another refugee camp. Probably not much better than the one they had left behind on Kepler 442c. After 3 weeks of warmth, good food, and hope, putting the Zephyrians back into a camp felt like a betrayal. There has to be another way, Marcus said. I am sorry, Captain. Rules are rules. Without proper processing, they cannot be released into the general population. But before Marcus could argue further, Torgan stepped forward. The elderly engineer had been listening carefully to the conversation, and his expression showed the focused determination of someone solving a technical problem. Miss Immigration Officer, Torgan said in his careful standard, what if refugees have sponsor? What if someone take responsibility for housing, employment, integration assistance? The official blinked in surprise. Well, yes, sponsored refugees can bypass the housing facility, but the sponsor must be a Haven Colony citizen, with proven means of support and a clean legal record. Finding such sponsors usually takes months of interviews and matching processes. I sponsor them, Marcus said immediately. Captain, you are not a Haven Colony citizen. Marcus thought quickly. Haven Colony had fast-track citizenship programs for skilled workers and business investors. What if I establish residency? Start a business here? The official consulted her tablet. Possible, but that process also takes time. Residency applications, business licensing, financial background checks. How much time? Minimum 3 weeks, assuming all your paperwork is perfect and you have sufficient capital investment. 3 more weeks of uncertainty, but it was better than 6 months in a refugee camp. Let's do it. Over the next hour, Marcus found himself filling out forms for business registration, residency applications, and refugee sponsorship documents. The process was complicated, but Nixara helped with calculations, and Ral and Kor served as translators when the older refugees needed to provide personal information. The immigration official seemed genuinely surprised by Marcus's determination. Captain, you understand this is a major commitment? Sponsoring 13 refugees means you are responsible for their housing, employment, legal compliance, and integration support. If any of them violate colony laws or cannot find work, you could be held financially liable. I understand, Marcus said. May I ask why you are willing to take on such responsibility for people who cannot pay you back? Marcus looked at his passengers, his family, he corrected himself. Velthara was helping Kira color in pictures on a children's activity pad someone had given her. Torgan was sketching engineering diagrams while discussing his ideas with Dr. Quinara. The artist Zayuna was creating small light patterns to entertain the younger children while they waited. Because they are not just refugees anymore, Marcus said. They are skilled people who want to build new lives. They fixed my ship, improved my business, and taught me things I never knew. Helping them is not charity. It is investment in the future. The processing took most of the day, but eventually they were cleared to enter Haven Colony as temporary residents under Marcus's sponsorship. The Zephyrians would have 6 months to find permanent employment and housing, while Marcus established his new business. The first priority was finding proper accommodations. The immigration office provided a list of temporary housing options, but Marcus had a better idea. He contacted Sarah Kim, an old trading partner who had retired to Haven Colony 5 years earlier. Marcus, what brings you to Haven? Sarah asked when she answered his call. Long story. Sarah, do you know anyone who rents furnished houses to refugee families? I need temporary housing for 13 people, including children. 13. Marcus, what have you gotten yourself into? Marcus explained the situation while Sarah listened with growing amazement. You gave up a profitable cargo run to transport refugees for free, and now you are establishing residency here to sponsor them. Marcus, when did you become a humanitarian? About 3 weeks ago, Marcus said honestly. Can you help? Sarah was quiet for a moment. You know what? Yes, I know exactly the right person. My neighbor runs a settlement assistance program for new immigrants. She has access to family housing in the new residential district. Give me an hour to make some calls. The housing Sarah arranged was perfect, a cluster of 3 small homes in a quiet neighborhood, furnished with basic necessities and within walking distance of schools, markets, and the employment office. The cost was reasonable, and the landlord was experienced with helping refugee families adjust to colony life. As they moved the Zephyrians into their temporary homes, Marcus was amazed by how quickly they adapted. Velthara immediately began planning a small garden in the backyard. Torgan started sketching modifications to improve the house's heating systems. The children explored their new rooms with excitement, and their bioluminescent markings glowed brighter than Marcus had ever seen them. First real home in almost 1 year, Velthara said as they stood in the main house's kitchen. We thought maybe never have home again. This is just the beginning, Marcus assured her. Tomorrow we start looking for permanent jobs and housing, but the job search proved easier than expected. Word had spread quickly through Haven Colony's immigrant community about the Zephyrian refugees and their human sponsor. Dr. Quinara was contacted by the colony's medical center within 2 days. They desperately needed physicians with experience treating different alien species. Torgan was hired by a starship repair company that specialized in exotic engine modifications. The colony's agricultural department was particularly excited to meet Velthara. Haven Colony had been struggling to develop sustainable farming practices for their diverse population, and a xenobotanist with her experience was exactly what they needed. We have been trying to grow food for 17 different species, the agriculture director explained during Velthara's interview. We can feed everyone, but not efficiently. We need someone who understands how to optimize plant growth for multiple nutrition requirements. Within a week, Velthara was leading a research team developing new growing techniques. Her first breakthrough came when she realized that certain plant varieties could be modified to produce different nutrient profiles depending on their growing conditions. One crop could be harvested at different stages to feed both herbivorous and omnivorous species. The younger refugees found opportunities too. The twins Ral and Kor were hired as translators for the immigration office. Zayuna was commissioned to create light sculptures for the colony's new cultural center. Even little Kira found a place, helping at the colony's botanical gardens, where her natural talent with plants made her a favorite among both staff and visitors. Marcus established his new business, Chen Interstellar Transport, with a focus on refugee assistance and humanitarian cargo. His reputation spread quickly through the colony's network of traders and shipping companies. The modifications Torgan had made to his ship gave him advantages in fuel efficiency and cargo capacity that other haulers could not match. More importantly, word began to spread through the